Why do the most powerful and celebrated figures in our society often seem unworthy of admiration? We live in a world where success is often measured by wealth, popularity, and influence. But have you ever stopped to question whether these are the right standards? Who truly deserves the admiration and accolades in society? Is it the celebrity, the politician, or the entrepreneur with the loudest voice and the biggest platform? Or is it someone else, the quietly brilliant, the misunderstood genius, or the person who dares to challenge the status quo? This is a question that the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche asked over a century ago, and his answer might shock you. Nietzsche believed that modern society, with all its conveniences and comforts, has lost its way. According to him, we've built a world that rewards the wrong people, the weak, the obedient, and the ones who play by the rules, even when those rules are unjust. At the same time, we've pushed aside the truly exceptional, the creators, the innovators, and those who dare to be different. Nietzsche wasn't just a critic of morality, he was a critic of society itself. His ideas about power, greatness, and the nature of human potential challenge everything we think we know about success. In Nietzsche's view, society today is built on what he called slave morality, a system that rewards conformity, submission, and mediocrity, while punishing strength, ambition, and individual excellence. To understand why Nietzsche believed society rewards the wrong people, we must first dive into his critique of morality. Nietzsche argued that the foundation of modern society, the very values we hold dear, has been corrupted over centuries, leading to a distorted understanding of what it means to be truly great. At the heart of Nietzsche's critique lies a distinction between two kinds of morality, master morality and slave morality. To grasp this distinction, imagine two groups of people. The first group, the masters, are strong, independent, and creative. They value traits like strength, pride, and power. The second group, the slaves, are weak, subjugated, and resentful. They value humility, meekness, and submission. Now, Nietzsche didn't use these terms as moral judgments about specific individuals. Rather, he used them to describe two different systems of values, two ways of looking at the world. The master morality comes from the powerful, the exceptional, and the free individuals in society, those who create their own values and live according to their will. For the masters, power and greatness are seen as good, while weakness and submission are seen as bad. On the other hand, the slave morality emerges from the oppressed, those who are subjugated by the will of the masters. Nietzsche argued that instead of embracing power, the slaves have redefined what is good to serve their own interests. For them, humility, kindness, and self-sacrifice became the highest virtues because these were the traits that helped them survive in a world dominated by stronger forces. The slaves, in their weakness, turned the tables and began to glorify their own suffering as morally superior to the dominance of the masters. But here's the catch. Over time, slave morality began to dominate the cultural and religious narratives of Western society. Christianity, with its emphasis on meekness, humility, and forgiveness, became the perfect embodiment of slave morality. Nietzsche saw this as a profound shift, one that completely reshaped the values of Western civilization. Instead of celebrating strength, power, and individual achievement, society began to idolize weakness, conformity, and submission. It was no longer about creating and conquering. It was about survival and staying safe within a system that rewarded mediocrity. This shift, according to Nietzsche, led to the rise of the herd mentality. In a society shaped by slave morality, people no longer aim for greatness. Instead, they prioritize comfort, security, and fitting in. The herd mentality takes root when individuals are more concerned with belonging to the group than with cultivating their own individuality. It's about not rocking the boat, about adhering to the values that have been handed down, even if those values are self-limiting. But Nietzsche didn't think this was a natural or inevitable outcome. He saw it as the result of a moral revolution, a revolution that, over centuries, distorted the essence of what it means to be human. He warned that this herd mentality would undermine the very forces of creativity and innovation that propel humanity forward. Think about it. In a world where the loudest voices are the ones that preach compliance, conformity, and collective interests, the truly exceptional, those who challenge the norms, who think outside the box, are often sidelined or crushed under the weight of social expectation. The masters, those who would have once been revered for their strength, intelligence, and leadership, are now looked upon with suspicion, if not outright disdain. They threaten the status quo, and in a world dominated by slave morality, that's a dangerous thing. This is where Nietzsche's view on resentment comes in. The slaves, or the oppressed, resent the masters for their power and independence. They don't possess the will or the strength to challenge them directly, so they create an entirely new set of values to justify their own position. Instead of trying to become powerful, they make power something to be despised. They begin to glorify weakness and vulnerability, transforming them into virtues. In this way, resentment becomes a driving force in shaping morality. It's not about cultivating strength, but about justifying one's own weakness. In Nietzsche's time, he saw this as having reached a dangerous extreme. The moral system that had once been a means of survival for the oppressed had now taken over the entire cultural fabric. It had become ingrained in the way people thought about right and wrong, good and bad. Nietzsche saw this as an erosion of human potential, a loss of what made humans capable of greatness. The qualities that once drove individuals to create, to push the limits of what was possible, were being replaced by mediocrity. In essence, Nietzsche was calling for a return to master morality, a system that celebrates the will to power, the strength to overcome obstacles, and the drive to create something new. He wasn't advocating for domination over others, but rather for the domination of the self, overcoming one's own limitations and living authentically according to one's own values, not the ones imposed by society. But in a world that rewards the weak and the mediocre, where conformity and security are the highest virtues, the question arises: how can one rise above the herd? How can we reclaim the values of strength, creativity, and individualism in a world that has forgotten their importance? Think about the people we celebrate today. The most visible, powerful figures in modern society often aren't the ones who challenge the status quo, who innovate, or who offer groundbreaking new ideas. Instead, they're often the ones who have mastered the art of conforming, of playing the game, and of maintaining their place in the established system. It's almost as if the true giants, the ones who could lead us into new realms of understanding, are systematically sidelined, while those with less talent but more conformity are elevated to the highest platform. So who are these people we celebrate, and why are they the ones who succeed? Let's start with one of the most glaring examples, the celebrity culture. Modern society, particularly through the lens of social media, elevates people to iconic status for reasons that often have nothing to do with their talent, skill, or even their contribution to society. Celebrities are praised for their ability to maintain a public image, to stay in the public eye, and to project a certain lifestyle. But what exactly are we admiring? Fame, wealth, appearances. In many cases, it's not their substance or their creativity that makes them so admired. It's their ability to sell an image. Nietzsche would argue that this is precisely the point. Society has shifted its values, and in doing so, it has begun rewarding the wrong people. In his time, the values of strength and creativity were celebrated. But now, as society becomes more dominated by the media, by commercial interests, and by a desire for immediate gratification, the figures who thrive are often those who know how to market themselves best. The emphasis isn't on what they've achieved or created, but on how they make people feel. Take a look at the world of business. Today, the most successful entrepreneurs aren't always the ones with the best ideas. They're often the ones who know how to navigate the system, how to secure funding, and how to manipulate public perception. Think about the tech moguls who build massive companies, but whose true contribution might be questionable in terms of social value. Their companies become giants not because they revolutionized an industry, but because they know how to take advantage of current trends, how to capitalize on the public's fascination with the new and shiny. And what does this say about society's value? It tells us that success is often measured by your ability to fit into the existing power structures, rather than by your ability to create something of real substance. But here's the real tragedy. This system doesn't just reward the wrong people, it actively punishes those who dare to challenge the system. True greatness, the kind Nietzsche admired, doesn't always align with popular taste. It isn't always comfortable or marketable, and it certainly isn't always profitable in the short term. The truly great often go unrecognized in their time. We only look back at figures like Vincent van Gogh, Emily Dickinson, and Friedrich Nietzsche himself, and recognize their greatness after they've passed into obscurity. Modern times, we see this phenomenon again and again. Think about the artists, philosophers, and scientists who revolutionized entire fields only to be ignored, ostracized, or underappreciated during their lives. Take Nikola Tesla, for example, arguably one of the most brilliant minds in the history of science. Yet in his lifetime, he was largely overshadowed by figures like Thomas Edison, who had the financial backing, the media influence, and the ability to sell his ideas to the masses. Tesla had the vision, but Edison had the system. This dynamic isn't limited to the arts or the sciences. It's all across society. The creators, the thinkers, the innovators, the people who would push humanity forward are often drowned out by the noise of those who are better at fitting in and following the rules. We reward those who can play the game, rather than those who have the potential to change it. But what does this mean for us as individuals? It means that we live in a society that rewards mediocrity, because mediocrity is easier to digest. It's safer. It doesn't challenge the system, and it doesn't disrupt the status quo. Mediocrity conforms to the rules. It keeps the wheels of the system turning without ever questioning whether the wheels should be turning at all. Nietzsche, with his concept of the will to power, would argue that we need to look beyond the surface. We shouldn't admire those who simply play the game and fit into existing molds. We should admire those who dare to break free from the herd, those who create, challenge, and redefine what it means to be great. But in order to do that, we have to recognize that society's current value system is fundamentally flawed. The irony here is profound. In a society that prides itself on progress and innovation, it's the very innovators who are often left behind in favor of those who play by the established rule. The herd mentality, which Nietzsche warned about, ensures that only those who conform rise to the top, while the truly exceptional are either ignored or actively suppressed. But just because society rewards the wrong people doesn't mean we have to follow the crowd. Nietzsche's message isn't one of despair, it's one of empowerment. We can challenge these outdated values. We can choose to create our own path, to seek out true greatness, even if it means going against the grain. It's time to turn to Nietzsche's antidote, the will to power. This is perhaps one of his most profound and misunderstood ideas, and it's key to understanding how the strong, those who dare to embrace their true potential, can rise above the noise of the herd and make their mark on the world. At its core, the will to power isn't just about domination or external control. Nietzsche wasn't advocating for tyranny or oppression. Rather, the will to power is about the internal drive to grow, to overcome obstacles, and to create. It is the energy that pushes individuals to transcend their limitations and shape the world around them according to their will. This is where Nietzsche saw the potential for the truly great, not in following the established rules, but in rewriting them. Nietzsche's idea of the will to power begins with a fundamental understanding. Human beings are not simply driven by the need for survival. We are driven by something deeper, a desire to express ourselves fully, to realize our potential, and to leave our unique imprint on the world. This is the true essence of life for Nietzsche: growth, creation, and the assertion of one's individuality. When Nietzsche talks about the will to power, he's describing a force that goes beyond mere survival or pleasure. It's about mastery over oneself, over one's circumstances, and even over the world itself. It's the inner force that drives us to achieve, to become more than what we are today. It's the urge to continually push forward, to evolve, and to grow in strength and creativity. But here's the twist. In a society that rewards conformity and mediocrity, those who harness the will to power often find themselves at odds with the world around them. The will to power is inherently disruptive. It doesn't seek to preserve the status quo. It doesn't accept things as they are. It seeks to transform, to challenge the norms, and to break free from the limitations that society imposes. So how can individuals tap into this powerful force? First and foremost, it requires the courage to embrace discomfort. The will to power is not an easy road. It demands that you face adversity, that you confront your fears, and that you take risks. The true strength comes not from avoiding challenges, but from overcoming them. And this is where many people falter, because society often tells us to avoid discomfort, to play it safe, and to conform to the norm. But Nietzsche's will to power is a call to embrace the struggle, to see obstacles not as barriers, but as opportunities to grow stronger. To embrace the will to power is to take ownership of your life. It means rejecting the passive acceptance of external values and instead creating your own. Nietzsche believed that the greatest individuals in history were those who lived according to their own values, who were not bound by the morals imposed by society. It's about becoming the creator of your own destiny. It's about finding the courage to defy expectations and to carve out your own path. The will to power also means having the strength to overcome your own weaknesses. We all have internal struggles, doubts, and limitations, but the individual who seeks greatness doesn't shy away from these challenges. They confront them head-on. The more you confront your own weaknesses, the stronger you become. The more you push through adversity, the more resilient you become. This is the essence of growth, pushing beyond your limits to become something greater than you were yesterday. But the journey doesn't stop at personal growth. It also involves asserting your will onto the world. The truly great individuals are those who take the lessons they've learned, the strength they've built, and the values they've created, and they apply them to the world around them. Whether it's through art, science, business, or philosophy, the will to power is about shaping the world according to your vision. Nietzsche believed that the individual who possesses the will to power becomes the creator of new values. They set the standards. They define what is good and what is bad, not based on the conventions of society, but based on their own understanding of the world. This is the ultimate form of freedom, the freedom to create, to define, and to reshape the world around you. But make no mistake, this process is not easy. It requires perseverance, resilience, and above all, self-discipline. The will to power is not a quick fix or a shortcut to success. It's a lifelong commitment to personal growth, to pushing boundaries, and to creating something that reflects your truest self. So, what does it take to rise? It takes a commitment to self-mastery, the courage to face adversity, and the strength to transform both yourself and the world around you. The strong are not the ones who follow the crowd, who blend in with the herd. They are the ones who dare to be different, who dare to create. The will to power is not about conquest, it's about becoming. It's about overcoming the limitations that bind us and rising above the noise of a world that seeks to keep us in line. It's about asserting your strength, creating your own values, and shaping the world according to your will. So rise. The world is waiting for those who have the courage to create something new, something bold, something truly great. The will to power is within you. The question is, will you choose to harness it?